Greetings, welcome to Facts About Everything. I'm your host, James Egan. Today we're going to look at the leader of the X-Men, Cyclops. Cyclops doesn't like Captain America. Not a fan. Cyclops once told Captain America to, quote, dress as Nomad again and watch your books almost get cancelled. This is a reference to when Steve Rogers stopped being Captain America and took on a new identity called Nomad. Sales were so bad that the comic was nearly cancelled. Does that mean Cyclops is aware that he's in a comic book? And that is the first fact about Cyclops. Let's dive in. Cyclops debuted in X-Men #1 in 1963. His real name is Scott Summers. At first, he was just an X-Man. He became the team leader in X-Men #7 in 1964. He was originally known as Slim Summers. By the third issue, his name was changed to Scott, and Slim became his nickname. Although in one of the first issues, he was called Scott Summers. Scott shoots concussive blasts from his eyes. The optic lasers are not heat-oriented, as many people assume. Scott cannot consciously stop shooting lasers until he closes his eyes. The only thing that absorbs the blast are his ruby quartz glasses or his visor. His eyes are red. Before his mutation activated, his eyes were brown. Many readers believe that Scott can't control his optic blasts because it's part of his mutation. Even the writers make this mistake sometimes. But no, the reason why he can't control his power is because he hit his head off a rock when he was a child and suffered a severe concussion. This permanently affected his mutation. Rogue is a mutant with the ability to absorb other people's powers. When she absorbed Cyclops' abilities, she could control them since she did not have a concussion. Also, let me know if you want me to do a video about Rogue. Cyclops uses his specially designed visor to control his laser beams. Without the visor, he can't open his eyes without risking killing someone with the blast. However, this does not mean Scott is helpless without his eyesight. He has trained himself for years to rely on his hearing and spatial awareness, which makes him an extraordinary fighter. The laser that Cyclops shoots out of his eyes rebounds off reflective surfaces. It can even reflect off Colossus, which Cyclops has used to his advantage. Iron Man has calculated that Cyclops' laser beams are almost 2 gigawatts. That's half the capacity of a fully powered nuclear power plant. The laser that he fires is so powerful it can rupture steel or pulverize rock. He can alter the laser's width, height, and intensity without effort. He has been in love with Jean Grey since he met her. They began a relationship in X-Men 32 in 1967. Scott and Jean wed in X-Men #30 in 1994. I already did a video about Jean Grey. I'll leave a link at the end of this video if you want to check that out. The character was created by Jack Kirby and Stan Lee. The first villain that Scott faced was Jack of Diamonds, who is also known as the Living Diamond. IGN did a list of the greatest X-Men ever in 2006 and ranked Cyclops at #1. How did he beat Wolverine, or Beast, or Strong Guy, or anybody? Before he became Cyclops, Scott was a radio announcer. For years, Scott remembered almost nothing about his childhood. His memories were activated after an encounter with the demon, Despair. Although he is known for being in a relationship with Jean Grey, Scott had a psychic affair with Emma Frost. This means that they didn't physically sleep with each other, but Emma's psychic power made Scott experience the same sensations. This began a long relationship between Scott and Emma. Scott does not rely on his hands to use his visor. He has buttons on his gloves so he can shoot lasers even if he's handcuffed or incapacitated. He is immune to his own optic laser blast. If he shot himself in the hands, it would cause no damage or pain. His optic blast range is 1.6 miles. Originally, his optic beams were described to be the product of his body metabolizing sunlight. He was only 16 when he joined the X-Men. As his powers developed, he learned how to direct his optic blast rather than shooting them in straight lines. One comic book explores what would happen if Cyclops had an eye infection. That sounds really stupid, but I'm actually really curious. What the hell would he do? Go to the optician? He briefly served as Captain America. I don't know why, because he doesn't like him, so. Many people believe Cyclops sees everything with a red tint due to his ruby quartz visor. However, he sees everything with a yellow tint. As you can see, X-Men Origins Wolverine got this wrong because that movie could literally not do anything right. When he was a child, he and his family were involved in a plane crash. Scott and his brother Alex escaped via a parachute, but his parents apparently died. Years later, Scott learned that the plane crash was part of an alien abduction and his parents were kidnapped by a galactic race called the Shi'ar. Although Scott's mother was murdered by the aliens, his father, Christopher, survived. Christopher became a space adventurer called Corsair and formed his own team called the Starjammers. The Starjammers are composed of Corsair, a lizard called Chod, a smuggler called Raza, and a skunk-like alien called Hepzibah. Okay, let's look at his brother Havoc a little bit. His brother, Alex Summers, is also a mutant. Alex can shoot plasma blasts from his hands. Cyclops and Havoc's powers have no effect on each other. He wears an outfit that helps him regulate and control his power. Since Havoc can harness cosmic energy, many supervillains like the Living Pharaoh and Apocalypse have kidnapped Havoc, attempting to use his power to fuel a doomsday machine. Scott had another brother called Gabriel. Cyclops never knew he existed until adulthood. Gabriel calls himself Vulcan and can control heat, electricity, force, and light. Originally, Cyclops' secret brother was going to be Apocalypse. The first thing he ever destroyed with his optic blast was an air conditioner. Despite the laser's vast power, it has no recoil, so Scott is under no risk of whiplash. There's an alternative story that shows what Cyclops' life would be like if he shot laser beams out of his ears. It's top-notch stuff. If his visor becomes damaged, a spring will automatically activate, preventing the valve from being used. This is to avoid Cyclops shooting lasers by accident. Cyclops has at least a dozen spare visors in case the one he is wearing is broken. Cyclops eventually replaced Professor X as the headmaster of the Xavier Institute. He said that the Captain America is the most boring superhero on the planet Earth. He's never explained why he hates him. James Marsden plays Cyclops in the first 3 X-Men films. Ty Sheridan plays Cyclops in the X-Men prequels. It's known that Jean Grey got consumed by a force known as the Phoenix, which drove her insane. Eventually, Cyclops was consumed by the Phoenix. It made him become so mad with power, he killed Professor Charles Xavier. Since he killed the leader of the X-Men, he was seen as a monster. However, some mutants who were human haters saw him as the new Magneto. They banded together and formed an anti-human team known as the Ghosts of Cyclops. Although he didn't mean to, killing Professor X caused him to become disillusioned with the X-Men's dream of a world where mankind and mutants live in peace. As a result, he lost his way and became an anti-hero. He had a child called Nathan who was infected by Apocalypse. Cyclops sent Nathan into the future hoping there was technology advanced enough to save him. By the time Nathan returned to the present, he was in his 50s and went by the name Cable. When Beast believes Cyclops lost his way, he used a time machine so Cyclops could meet Cyclops when he first joined the X-Men when he was 16. The younger Cyclops couldn't believe how disillusioned his older self had become and told him he was ashamed of him. Right, just in case you haven't been following, Cyclops has dated 2 sidekicks. His father's a space pirate, his time-traveling son Cable is twice as old as Cyclops, and his time-traveling younger version of himself hates him. This is what problems are like in comics. It's never like taxes or the mortgage or something. And finally, the Inhumans obtained their power from a cloud called the Terrigen Mists. When the Inhumans' home was destroyed, the Terrigen spread throughout the world. Although this cloud gives normal humans powers, it is lethal to mutants. Sadly, Cyclops was infected by the cloud and died. Way to end the video on a downer, Jim. Yay! Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Please let me know if there's any other X-Men you want me to do a video about. Let me know and I'll upload it as soon as possible.